I don't know if I've watched a clip so short that so well captured how I feel most of the time. I was sitting next to Lindsay as she was just watching. She's like, yes, yeah, that's it. If we haven't met before, my name's Trevor. I'm one of the pastors here at Beacon, and I'm delighted that you're here today. We are back in our teaching series called Suburbia, and today it's just busyness as usual. And we're going to be talking a little bit about the pace of life in suburbia. And I don't know about you, but I kind of get this image in my mind of the suburbs, and I think like, oh, things should slow down in the suburbs. The pace of life, it should be just a little more relaxed, and you should be able to hang out and have this breathing room and everything like that. And that might be true if you're living in the suburbs of like Kansas City. But it's just not true in New York. You know, my wife, Lindsay, she's actually from Phoenix. She grew up in the city of Phoenix, which is not really a city. It's like a giant suburb. But she's been here for like 4 years, and she's still trying to adapt to the pace of life in the suburb of New York, you know? And we actually, I don't know if you know this, but New Yorkers, especially suburban New Yorkers, we have the longest commute of like any major metropolitan area in the US. We commute, I think on average, like 6 hours a week. And some of you might even do more than that. And it's true, they say that in San Francisco, they have a longer work week. So we have to kind of bow out of that one. The San Franciscans, they have a longer work week. But they do say that our commute is longer enough that our actual time spent devoted to work is longer. And it's greater than anywhere else in the country. And there's a pace of life in the suburbs that is just, it seems like it's getting faster and faster and faster. And I don't know if you can relate, but for me, I often feel like my schedule is something that exists outside of me, as if it has a mind of its own and I'm its victim. Like my schedule is some sort of green-eyed monster just bent on overwhelming me. And he likes to get together with his other schedule monster friends, and they go to conferences and conventions to figure out new ways to just steal our time from us. Things like Common Core homework and FanDuel and Clash of Clans and viral videos and of course Jack and Jill baby showers. Can we just, gotta pause for a second. Can we just agree that Beacon is a safe place where no man should ever have to go to a baby shower? Unless, if it's your baby, okay. But like, please don't ask me. Just beg you. This is not what we're talking about today, and it's certainly not the most important thing we're talking about today, but it's important. I digress. But it's true that, you know, I think there can be this sense where we view our schedule as something that happens to us, as if we have no involvement in it, but we do. We do have the ability to adjust our schedule. We are in control of it. We don't always have the control over the number of invites or opportunities that come our way, but we do have the control to say yes or no, which begs the question, why do we let our schedule get so out of control? Why do we let it get busier and busier and busier? Especially because very often our experience as things get busier, it's not good. But I think there's this myth in suburbia. There's this myth that it says that if you can improve your lifestyle, that you'll improve your quality of life. Like as if these things are tied together, that if your lifestyle improves, your quality of life will also improve. And just for clarity's sake, I want to kind of define terms a little bit. When I talk about your lifestyle, I talk about everything that you have, both material things like, you know, the house, the car, the savings account, immaterial things that you might have, like your career and your education, even your relationships kind of fall into this category. So, you know, your spouse, your friends, your 2.3 kids, like these are all part of the immaterial things that you have in your lifestyle. But then there's also the things that you do. There's the vacations that you take and the restaurants that you frequent and all of these different experiences, the recreational habits, the golfing and the gym memberships and the beach passes. These are all part of our lifestyle. But a lifestyle is different than the quality of life. When I talk about quality of life, I'm talking about your experience of life, you know, each moment of each day. And so if you have a good, strong, high quality of life, that means there's this joy, there's a a sense of peace. There's a satisfaction with your life. And if your quality of life is low, then you feel stressed and anxious and frustrated and distracted. These are, when I use these terms like lifestyle and quality of life, this is what I mean. But in suburbia, we kind of blend the two, and we say if you can improve your lifestyle, the things you have and the things that you do, that will automatically improve your quality of life. And this is where I think the American dream kind of like swoops in, and it can be so compelling to us, because the American dream says if you work hard, that is, if you busy yourself enough, that you can improve your lifestyle, which is probably true. It's not guaranteed, but it's probable. If you busy yourself enough, you can improve your lifestyle, and then we just assume that that's going to improve our quality of life. But very often, we only end up diminishing our quality of life with the busyness. And so we busy ourselves a certain amount, we realize that our quality of life isn't going up, and so we tell ourselves, we're not doing enough. We have to obviously do more. And so we get busier and busier. And you guys can notice, are you noticing, it just seems like the pace of life gets busier and busier and busier. And Jesus actually says there is another way. When Jesus showed up on the scene, he said, I came to bring you life, an abundant life, a fullness, a richness of life. And he's talking about a quality of life. He wants to improve the quality of your life. It's true. Now, it doesn't mean he wants to improve your lifestyle. You know, there's a lot of like TV preachers who are making millions of dollars convincing and confusing millions of Americans, saying that God wants you to be rich. Like, God wants to improve your lifestyle. But Jesus never says that. In fact, he kind of says the opposite at times, that it might diminish your lifestyle. But he says that he wants to improve your quality of life. And I really believe that. And we're going to be looking at a passage today in Luke chapter 10. And there's actually a note card that you were handed out, and actually has the passage that we're going to look at. If you want to grab that card, and if you have a pen, grab a pen. I think there's enough pens in the seats for half of you. So hopefully half of you have your own pen. We're gonna look through this passage. It's a short little episode in the life of Jesus where he kind of tackles this idea of busyness head on. And he kind of points out that there's another way, a way that he says is a better way. And so we're going to go through. I'm going to actually have you mark up some of this passage as we go through it so we can look at what's going on here. So in verse 38 here, it says, as Jesus and his disciples were on their way. Do me a favor and underline that first phrase there. As Jesus and his disciples were on their way. This is an important bit of information that we're going to come back to at the end. But it says, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet. Can you underline sat at the Lord's feet? Underline that there. Mary who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. But Martha, it says, but Martha was distracted. Do me a favor and circle distracted. She was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. Do me another favor and put quotes around the word had. Martha was distracted by all the preparations that, quote unquote, had to be made. This is kind of setting the stage for what's about to play out. Jesus shows up. Martha is running around. You know, it's probably a surprise visit. You know, Martha's running around. Now she has to feed Jesus and his 12 friends and everything. So she's trying to get everything ready. And Martha's sister Mary just sits in front of Jesus. And here in the middle of verse 40, it says, Martha, came to him, Jesus, and asked, Lord, don't you care? Can you circle, don't you care? Don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me. Now, who here would take the same posture as Martha? Because I certainly would. Like, if I was, if Jesus showed up, I'd want to make sure everything was perfect, and I'd be running around. If my sister was just sitting there doing nothing, I'd be like, Jesus, come on, tell her to help me out a little bit. But look at how Jesus responds in verse 41. He says, Martha, Martha, Martha. No. It says, Martha, Martha, the Lord answered, you are worried, circle worried. And he says, you're upset, circle upset. He says, you're worried and upset about many things. Martha, you're worried and upset about many things. Martha's running around, trying to get everything together, trying to maintain a certain lifestyle in the presence of Jesus. And we can actually look and see all the ways that this is hindering her quality of life. Look at all the words you circled. First, she's distracted. She's distracted. Her mind's kind of going off in a million different directions. She's fragmented in her thinking. Like, have you ever been in a room with somebody where you're sitting right next to them and you're having a conversation with them, but they're just someplace else entirely? Like, they're physically right there, but they're just elsewhere entirely. This is the kind of distraction that busyness brings into our life. We have so much going on that even when we do get a chance to sit down and relax for a second, our minds don't stop. They're still thinking about everything that we should have done or everything that we're going to have to do next. And even though we get the chance to relax, we're just so fragmented and distracted. Martha is distracted by all these preparations. And then look at the next thing. She says, "Don't you care?" to Jesus. She's in this position where she feels like Jesus just let her down. She's running around frantic, and she feels like she's been abandoned by the one who should be helping her. And I don't know if you've ever experienced this, where you know your schedule is so packed, you have so much going on, and it feels like you're not getting any help from anybody else, and you just want to cry out to God. And it's like, God, don't you care? Like, don't you care that I'm just being bogged down? Why aren't you helping me with this situation? She just feels like God abandoned her, and she's just disappointed. And then it says that she's worried. And this is the one that I find to be the most interesting. She's worried. But what is she worried about? All right, she's worried that she's gonna like overcook the brisket, worried that maybe she doesn't have enough seats for all of the disciples. And okay, she's worried about the meal, but we all eat like thousands of meals in our lifetime. Is it really that big of a deal if the meal doesn't go so well? Like, we all go into how many different homes in our lifetimes? Is it okay if we have to sit on the floor because there's not enough seats? See, this is the thing about busyness, especially when we're trying to attach our lifestyle to our quality of life. All of these little things start to pick up this added significance. All right, so it's not just a meal anymore. It means so much more than a meal. Like, this is the meal, and if she screws up this meal, then she's never going to be able to cook a good meal again, and everybody's going to think that Martha is just like a terrible hostess. And we start to attach all of this meaning and significance to just little things that are on our plate, and we start to worry about them. So, we have an idea. We want to propose something to our boss, but we start to worry about it. And we're like, oh, if he doesn't like my proposal, then he's not going to like any of my proposals, and then I'm going to get fired, and nobody's going to ever hire me again, and then my family is going to hate me, and I'm going to be alone on the street. And like, all you wanted to do was suggest a new place for lunch, but now in your mind, you're like living on the streets in a cardboard box. And our mind kind of plays these tricks on us sometimes where simple things have all of this added significance, because it's not just about our lifestyle anymore. It's about our quality of life. We're attaching so much significance because if this falls through, that means my quality of life is going to drop. And that matters to us. And so what do? We worry about it. Martha's just worried that these simple little things aren't going to work out. And lastly, it says she's upset. She's frustrated. Mary let her down. Jesus isn't stepping in, and she's just frustrated. Come on, guys, aren't you supposed to help me out here? And I get this way. When I'm busy, when I have too much to do and I'm kind of frazzled and everything like that, the littlest thing just sets me off. Like, any semblance of patience that I have as a human being is out the window when I'm in a hurry. And it could just be little things, and all of a sudden I start treating people like they're less important than the thing that I'm trying to do. I get so caught up in it, and I get frustrated by it. And Martha, she's experiencing all these things. She's distracted, she's disappointed, and she's anxious, and she's frustrated. So why is she doing all of this? Because she had to, right? Because she had, look at all the preparations that she had to make. And look what Jesus said. It says, "Martha, Martha," the Lord answered, "you're worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed." Can you put quotes around that word needed? Few things are needed. Indeed, only one. And then he says, Mary has chosen. Can you underline that word chosen? Mary has chosen what is better. And do me a favor and like circle, underline, star that word better. Mary has chosen what is better. Martha feels like all these things need to happen. They have to. She has to do all these preparations because if she doesn't do these things, it's going to negatively impact the quality of her life. Martha, however, takes a very, very different tack, different strategy. I think Mary was just as concerned about her quality of life as Martha. I think when Jesus showed up on the scene, the two were thinking, all right, how can I function in the way that's going to be best for my quality of life? And Martha decided, I'm going to run around and I'm going to try and do everything I can, and I'm going to try to make everything perfect because Martha wanted to make an impression on Jesus. But Mary, she just sat at the Lord's feet because Mary wanted Jesus to make an impression on her. Martha wanted to make an impression on Jesus. She's running around trying to put together this lifestyle. In Martha's mind, the perfect scenario is that Jesus would be sitting down at the Last Supper with his disciples, and they'd be sitting around the table, and Jesus would be like, this mutton is pretty good, but do you remember that meal that Martha made for us? That was awesome. That girl puts the Martha in Martha Stewart. She knows what she's doing. And that's like kind of the ideal that Martha can think of. She's running around because she's trying to improve her lifestyle, hoping that'll improve her quality of life. And then Mary, on the other hand, she's just sitting at the Lord's feet because she doesn't want to impress Jesus. She wants Jesus to make an impression on her. She wants Jesus to just rub off on her. Because Mary understands something that's so, so, so important. Busyness, all of our business, all of our activity, busyness can improve your lifestyle, but godliness can improve your quality of life. Busyness can improve your lifestyle, but godliness can improve your quality of life. We see it around so often. People, they busy themselves in all the right ways to get the quality, the lifestyle that we all dream of. They have everything we want. They do everything we want to do, and yet they're just miserable. And we see it. They have the lifestyle, but not the quality of life. This is the 27 Club. Have you guys heard of the 27 Club? 27 Club, certainly not a club you want to be a part of. It's actually one that most of you can't be a part of anymore. But it's this group of celebrities who actually died at the age of 27. And most of them died from either drug overdose or suicide. These are celebrities who have the lifestyle, but they don't have the quality of life. Busyness can improve your lifestyle, but godliness can improve your quality of life. So Mary sees this, and she chooses to sit at the Lord's feet instead of busying herself. She wants Jesus to make an impression on her. She wants all of the character and the virtues and the passions of Jesus, all the character and virtues and passions of God to start to be impressed into her. And Jesus actually affirms this. He says, this is the only thing that you need to do. He says, this is better. So what does this actually mean? So Jesus is saying that we're just supposed to sit at his feet? Like, what is that? Do we just go and hide away in our room reading our Bible all day long? Like that's only gonna last a few weeks before you starve to death. Like there actually needs to be more than just sitting at his feet. And this is what brings us back to that very first line. It says, as Jesus and his disciples were on their way. See, when Jesus popped in to Martha's house, it wasn't a final destination. It was just kind of like a pit stop along the way. And in a few minutes, Jesus is going to get up and he's going to go back out into the world where he's going to be feeding the hungry, and he's going to be clothing the naked, and he's going to be healing the sick, and he's going to be teaching the values and the principles of the kingdom of heaven. He's going to be out there doing stuff. And if Mary wants to remain at the feet of Jesus when he goes out, what is Mary going to have to do? She's going to have to follow him, right? See, this idea of sitting at the feet of the Lord, it's actually a euphemism for discipleship, for being a follower of Jesus. And the goal of a disciple or a follower is to become like the one you're following. She wants to become like Jesus, not in his greatness, but in his goodness. She wants the values and character and passions of Jesus to be impressed into her, to live these out, because she understands that, yes, busyness might improve her lifestyle, but godliness is going to improve her quality of life. So she kind of walks in step with Jesus. The Bible, it actually talks about it this way. It says, if you walk in step with the Spirit, that it produces a kind of fruit. The fruit of the Spirit, we call it. And it's fruit like love and joy and peace and patience, the very things that kind of make a high quality of life. These are the things we all secretly long for, right? Isn't this what we want to experience? Jesus says, if you walk in step with the Spirit, if you walk in step with me, if you develop this godliness, that it's going to produce the quality of life that we all long for. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky, because developing godliness takes time. And we're talking about how busy we are and how that we don't have any more time. So it kind of is like, wait a minute, I'm supposed to now do more? And yes and no. It's not as much as adding on, but it's an exchange. We have to actually trade some of the things that we're doing, some of the busyness that's going into producing that lifestyle, and exchange it for opportunities to produce godliness. Jesus actually talks about it this way in Matthew 11. He says, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Anybody weary and burdened, looking for a little bit of rest? This is me. I would like some rest. And Jesus says, "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me." Jesus doesn't say, "Come to me, all who are weary and rest, and lay down your burden." That's part of it. But he says, "Take up my yoke, take up my burden. For I am gentle and humble in heart, and you'll find rest for your souls." And he says, "My yoke is easy, and my burden is light." Following Jesus, it actually takes time. I wish it didn't. Like, I wish you could microwave godliness. Unfortunately, you can't. It's it's something that's kind of slow roasted over time, and so we have to be able to put in that time. So Jesus is saying there's an exchange that needs to take place. Yes, lay down some of the burden that you're carrying, and then take up this burden. And don't worry, because this burden, it's light and it's easy and it's good. It's going to produce the kind of lifestyle, the quality of life that we all long for. I witnessed this kind of working out recently. I've experienced it numerous times in my own life. And as I continue to grow and mature myself, I see it more and more. But earlier this year, I actually got to witness how it played out in my wife. It was kind of fun for me to watch. She does know I'm sharing this, so I'm not going to be like in trouble. But my wife was in this dead-end job. And she was working, she had a lot of great people that she worked with. She loved some of the other people that she worked with, but her boss was really, really difficult. And she was really just kind of downright mean to Lindsay. And if you guys know Lindsay, she's like the sweetest person in the world. Like, it's just weird. Even like Lindsay's coworkers were kind of shocked. They just didn't understand because her boss was just so cruel. And so Lindsay, for a long time, it's a couple of years almost, she was just feeling all the things that Martha was feeling. She was feeling stressed out and worried and disappointed and frustrated and distracted. And then something kind of switched at the beginning of the year, and she began devoting more and more time and energy into growing in godliness. And so she was more intentional about spending time studying scripture and in prayer. She was more intentional about meeting with some other ladies who were able to encourage her and disciple her and come alongside her in this journey. She was more intentional about finding ways to serve people in need and care for those who were hungry and hurting. And as she started to do this, it was actually really quick. It was in like a matter of weeks, probably even at most a couple of months, where all of a sudden her quality of life just started to escalate, like exponentially. It was wild because it like I could see it, like others around her could see it, even her coworkers, like who don't know Christ or anything like that. They started to see this change and they were kind of like in shock. They're like, what's going on? Because Lindsay's lifestyle didn't change. She was still dealing with the same job with the same horrible boss, and the lifestyle stayed the same, but her quality of life started to improve. Because it's true, busyness, it can change our lifestyle, but godliness can actually change and transform the quality of our lives. And so I want to just invite you to consider that maybe Jesus was right when he said there's another way, there's a better way. That maybe some of the busyness that you're experiencing in your life, maybe there are things that you can exchange. And if you want to go down this road, there's a couple of tools I want to give you and leave you with. The first is on the back of this note sheet. It's really simple. It's actually just a week calendar, Sunday to Saturday. And what I want you to do is, not right now, but on your own, either later today or sometime in the next couple of days, just reflect over the past week. Try to document what you did each day and how much time you spent doing it. And reflect over it, think about it, and pray over it. And start to ask yourself, all right, what in my week is helping me grow in godliness? And is there stuff that I can start to exchange? And feel free to start small. Exchange an episode of TV for some time studying Scripture. Maybe try to squeeze in a growth group and maybe skip the gym one day. I mean, going to the gym is good, but now we have to be careful here. We have to be careful here because all of these things like, going to church, being a part of a growth group, serving in the church, even reading the Bible and prayer, like these are all good activities, but they can also just end up being busyness. If they're just like another thing that you have to do, it's just going to add to the busyness and the chaos, and it's not going to help improve your quality of life. But if you really set out with the goal, the purpose, where you're seeking to grow in godliness, these things can become invaluable to your quality of life. They can help you grow in such a way that even if other things start to shake, even if your lifestyle starts to be tampered with a little bit, that your quality of life can still increase. I actually know a guy who comes to Beacon. He's currently in the market for a demotion. He has an interview for a demotion on Thursday because he got to the point where he started to realize, I can maintain this lifestyle, but it's not helping my quality of life. Or I can cut back. I can actually make less money. I can shrink down my lifestyle a little bit and be able to devote the time and energy into the things that I know are going to improve my quality of life. And I'm not saying that you need to start off by thinking about like getting a new job. Maybe that is for you, to pray about. But I'm not saying to start off there. Just think about small exchanges that you might be able to make to intentionally pursue godliness in your life. The second thing I want to give you is it's just a question that has helped me so much, even over the past few weeks. It's going to take time for godliness to start to produce the fruit of joy and peace and patience, all of that. But in the meantime, when you get into those moments where you're feeling like Martha, you're feeling a little frazzled and you're worried about what's happening, there's a question that I started asking myself that really has been very helpful for me. And it's simple. It's just, in that moment, am I Mary or am I Martha? and can I be Mary? And the question is, in my circumstance, in this moment, do I want to make an impression on others, or do I want Jesus to make an impression on me? Do I want to make sure that, Trevor looks good and that Trevor succeeds, or do I want Jesus to be able to use this opportunity to develop in me a kind of godliness, the kind of character and values and passions and virtues of God in me? And using this opportunity as a way to draw closer to Jesus rather than to just be greater myself. I found it so helpful, and I hope that you guys can find it as an encouragement as well. When you find yourself in that moment, you're just worried and frantic, just pause for a moment. Ask this question and just ask God. Say, hey God, I pray that you'll use this to develop in me a kind of godliness. I love the way that Jesus handles this with Martha. He doesn't just come in and say, Martha, you're doing it all wrong. You need to do it this way and force her to do it. He doesn't do that at all. He lets Martha do it her own way. But he just kind of gives this invitation. He says, Martha, there is a better way. Mary chose it. It's a better way that could be a better way for you. And he just kind of gives her this invitation to choose, like Mary did. It was a choice. She chose what was better. And I want to give you that same invitation. Jesus really does want to improve the quality of your life. And I want to give you that invitation to just consider, is the busyness that you're involved in right now, is it really helping your quality of life? Or is it diminishing it? Is there a possibility that maybe you can make an exchange so that you can, rather than focusing on the busyness to improve your lifestyle, focus on the godliness that's going to improve your quality of life? Won't you pray with me? God, we thank you for this opportunity to be here and to learn from your word. And we thank you for your love and your care for us. That you really do care. That you really do want the best for us. That you're not trying to restrict us. You're not trying to just put more on our plate and weigh us down. But you say your yoke is easy and it's light. So God, I pray that we'll be encouraged to reflect over the busyness in our lives and be able to exchange some of that busyness for godliness. And I pray that as we do, we'll be able to experience the fruit of your Spirit, the love, the joy, the peace that comes only from you. God, we thank you for all these things. In Jesus' name, amen.